Being an unarmed security guard is difficult and often a thankless job. Proper selection of equipment, proper selection of the duty belt, and proper setup of equipment in the duty belt can often help you make your job a little bit easier and a whole lot safer. We're going to look at not just the unarmed security duty belt, but also all the ancillary equipment and some specific things about doing unarmed security that might give you some ideas on how to do better at your job. All right, man, take a seat, buckle up. Ordinarily, we'd start with orientation of the car here, but we got calls pending, and we got to get to them. So, we're rolling. We're going to have to learn on the way. All right, today, Today we're going to talk about doing unarmed security work. When I first started off in the business and started doing unarmed security work many years ago, I made a lot of mistakes and did a lot of things that made my life harder than it really had to be. I went out, of course, as soon as I got the job, and got a nice bright t-shirt with security written on it, and I got myself a nice shiny pair of handcuffs, a nice big can of pepper spray, and a nice big honking flashlight. And I thought this was the coolest stuff ever. And what I quickly found out was that in most jobs, if you're not like a night watchman working at a warehouse, where no one's going to see you, or working in a heavy industrial environment, a lot of the job of working private security is being kind of the hand of the manager when the manager can't be there. Kind of like the guy stocking shelves is doing the job the manager would do if they didn't have someone stocking shelves, and the cashier is doing the job the manager would do if they didn't have somebody to be the cashier. When you're the security guard working at an office building or a retail store or a mall or something like that, you're doing a small part of the job that the manager would ordinarily do. In an environment like that, this type of stuff can actually be counterproductive. People see a guy in black pants or blue jeans with a yellow shirt and security written on the back, and a big flashlight, and a big can of pepper spray, and a set of nice shiny handcuffs, not even in a pouch, just hanging off the back of their belt, and they say, wow, what type of place is this where they need all of this, and where they need a guy with that big flashlight that's clearly for clubbing people, and why does he need that big can of pepper spray, and why does he need those handcuffs? It doesn't scare the right people that you're trying to dissuade from doing things. The people that get freaked out by this stuff and are impressed by it are the ones that aren't coming there to do anything anyway. Most criminals are not impressed by a big can of pepper spray or handcuffs or flashlight. They've seen that before. They've fought with the police before. They fought with security before. This doesn't really dissuade them. What I found also is that this stuff is bigger, heavier, and weighs more. And the more I did the job, even at larger industrial facilities and outdoor places, camps and things like that, I found that this tended to be left in the truck, and this tended to be substituted in. And then when I realized after about a year that I hadn't pepper sprayed anyone, and I wasn't going to be pepper spraying anyone, and pepper spray really sucks as a general rule because it blows back at you half the time and ends up spraying everybody down, I figured that, well, I'd like to have pepper spray still because it's a good tool for certain circumstances. Since I had never really used it outside of training, I figured, well, I'll probably get away with 1 or 2 shots. I don't need 10 2-second shots of pepper spray to work security at the local mall or at the local stop and rob. And I found after the first time the local constabulary took off of my handcuffs and I couldn't get them back, and nobody knew where they went, that maybe buying a nice cheap pair of handcuffs that were a little lighter duty and a lot cheaper and were a more matte finish would be the way to go, because then people don't see the handcuffs when they're hanging off of my belt. Speaking of the belt, the first belt that I bought I don't have. It was leather and it got destroyed. It's been many years since I had bought that, and it started cracking and falling apart because I was working at the time in a place that was outdoors, and the leather just starts coming apart when you're out in the rain all day and out in the sun all day. What I went to was this nylon belt, which was cheaper and easier to clean. I've actually bleached this before. You put it right into a bucket of bleach water, just like I do for handcuffs up here, and clean it off and make sure all the uckies are off of it at the end of the day if you get bled on or something like that. What I found was that these smaller things I could fit into my pocket or onto a much smaller pouch that didn't whack into my knees as I was walking around. And some of these, like this, worked as a much more efficient lighting tool because I could hold it in my mouth to do something which you really couldn't do with a full-size 4D Maglight. I could put these in a pouch or just hang them off the back of the belt, and because they're black and my pants were black and the belt was black, they just kind of blended in and nobody saw, ooh, he's got handcuffs. Why does he have handcuffs? Who's he arresting? I had a radio pouch. At the time, FRS radios weren't really a thing. I know I'm dating myself, but FRS radios weren't really a thing, so everywhere you went had a radio that you have to put in a pouch. So I just got a universal pouch with a Velcro closure so I could close it at different heights depending on what radio I was using that day. And I had some rubber gloves, which I've always thought were a good idea. And after the first time my belt started sloshing around, I got some belt keepers to attach the outer belt to my inner belt, and that kind of solved most of that problem. And I had a little key keeper. The keys are long since gone because I don't work at any of the places that I did when I originally used this. And what I found was actually the best for, I'm going to coin a new term here, community securitying, was having a multi-tool on me. I was in the Scouts for many years, and I'm still loosely affiliated with them. I get call me every once in a while when they have a big event. So I always had a pocket knife on me, but I found that carrying a multi-tool around with a lot of tools inside, after people found out that you had this, like the managers of stores and the supervisors in different departments at a store and the employees that worked there, would always be coming up to me asking me to fix something for them, or hey, could you tighten this down? Could I borrow your multi-tool? Or whatever else. And it did two things for me. One was it got me away from standing at the front of the store or standing whatever guard post I was at, and got me off doing something else, which is always good. And it got me in contact with a lot of the people that worked at the stores that later became good references to get other jobs. Oh yeah, Tommy, he's so helpful, he's so nice, you know, he helps me out when I had a problem with this and that. That stuff sticks in people's head. And we always have to look at ourselves when we're working for a private entity as our own little business. We are a business, and we are selling the services of our business to whatever company. And we want to be able to use that company as a reference when we're trying to sell our services later on. So this came in really handy for that. And I kept that on a pouch on the belt. This is probably the only thing that I really needed the belt for because it was so heavy. Well, I mean, aside from the radio. These things end up being really heavy just on a normal belt. As time went on, I also got rid of this yellow t-shirt with the black lettering on it and went to something that's a little more quasi-uniform looking. I would normally just wear a white button-up dress shirt, short sleeve in the summer or long sleeve in the winter, and a pair of black Dickies or dress pants or whatever else. At the time, I admit to being one of those guys that bought a security badge and clipped it on his belt because I really didn't have anywhere to put it on the shirt. And by the time I realized why that was a bad idea and how silly I looked, it was too late to go buy a shirt with buttonholes in it because I was already working for better places that actually issued real uniform shirts that had yokes on them for a badge. I never, when I worked unarmed security, had the money to have a vest. Looking back, I wish I had spent the money to have a vest, even though knowing now I never got shot or stabbed or anything doing unarmed security work, it would have been smart of me. And I've talked about that before. It's probably the best insurance you can buy, buying yourself a vest. So these are a few things to think about. Now, nowadays, I'd probably still be using the little can of pepper spray, to be honest with you. I'd probably get a little flashlight. I got a whole video on flashlights. If I was doing the type of environment where there wasn't a lot of reason to have a flashlight with a lot of throw and reach, or to use it as an emergency impact weapon, or have any other purpose behind having the flashlight other than lighting little small spaces in a store. Now, if I was working a night watchman as unarmed security, that changes the whole dynamic of this entirely. I'd probably go right back to the yellow shirt with black lettering, and I'd have a big old flashlight with as much reach and throw as I could afford and as big as I could afford, and I'd get a big old can of pepper spray because I'd know that I probably am not going to have any backup. You work a night watchman, normally you're the only guy there, and I'd have a couple of pairs of big chrome handcuffs, and I'd put them really close together so they jingled when I walked. Because the idea of doing night watchman stuff is to look a little scary and scare people away from where you're working security and to somewhere else where someone else is working security. Now, you can go off the deep end of this and get a Molly vest and start attaching silly pouches to it and stuff. Believe it or not, the criminals that are serious about this stuff, they see right through that. They know what you're trying to dissuade as a night watchman isn't the terrorist coming to come to your, soap factory and steal all the parts out of it. And that's not what's going on. You got guys coming there, they want to steal copper pipe out of the wall, or they want to steal pallets of whatever off the dock, and having a guy walking around clinking, making a bunch of noise with some stuff on his belt and a big flashlight makes him go, it's probably better off we just go down to the Tootsie Roll factory up the road and steal from them instead. So here's a few things to think about. Take from it what you will. I wouldn't call myself an expert in working on armed security anymore. I haven't really done it in a long time. Nowadays, when I do unarmed security work, it's kind of a nudge, nudge, wink, wink unarmed security work. Like, hey, we want you to work security for this event. We really don't want anybody to know that you're armed, which is where, my jackets come in that I wear, that I throw over the top of my stuff, and I just kind of keep everything pretty slim. But this is where I was when I left the industry, and I think a lot of these points are still really valid today. So let me know what you think. Throw some comments down below. I know there's a lot of guys overseas who use different types of equipment, cool stuff that I don't get to play with here, I'm sure, that are authorized in the UK and Canada and Norway and all sorts of places. I can see where all you guys are watching from, and I know there's people all over the world watching this. I'd love to hear from you and what your solutions to the different problems are, or what your take has been on dealing with people and the amount of equipment you have on the belt, or what type of new tools are out nowadays for unarmed security that I might not even be aware of. So throw me some comments, hit the like button, tell your friends if you think any of this information could help them in this video or other videos. As usual, the channel updates are going to be after the credits, and we'll see you guys next time. Well, if you like that video, go ahead and subscribe, because there's a whole lot more to come. As soon as I finish up these calls, go 10-8. County 291. 291. Update for this week. I'm sure by the time you're watching this portion of the video, somebody has already commented asking or complaining about me saying that I used to clip a badge to my unarmed security duty belt and why that was a bad idea. I've got an upcoming video that I am working on right now. I'm trying to get shot about why that's a bad idea, and explaining some of the studies that have been done about badge placement on uniforms. So look out for that. Unfortunately, I don't have any video of it to roll in yet, so this stock photo will have to do. Also, by the time you're watching this, I will have already done the abandoned houses video. It should be ready to rock, and it'll just be waiting to get released. I'm still trying to figure out how to do a couple other things on the computer so I could get some report writing videos. For right now, the only idea that I'm really kicking around and trying to get worked out is how to take the note-taking video that I did and use those same notes to then produce a report on that on one of those incidences. Hopefully that works out. We'll see you guys next week, and be safe.